This is AP Lit, and I'm going to review what we did in class on Friday. I'm going to review the poem To Autumn with you, and then at the end of this, I assigned the poem on page 86 in the workbook, and it's called A Poison Tree, and we answered the first 10 questions here, so that would be good practice, and we'll talk about those on Monday. But in terms of the poem To Autumn, the focus of this poem is imagery, and we focused on the way we could group or organize the imagery, the way the poet groups or organizes it. And we pointed out that each stanza represents a different part of the season, so the imagery reveals that the first stanza represents early autumn, second stanza the harvest time, and the third stanza the end of autumn. Each of those stanzas also represent a time of day from morning to evening. We also said that whereas the first two stanzas focus on smell, taste, and touch imagery, the last stanza pretty much focuses on sound imagery. And we asked why. Why is that true? And it made sense that by the end of the season, the smells and the sights have all vanished. All the crops have been harvested. They're no longer smells. They're no longer tastes, although they're being eaten, but not out there in nature. But because in the last stanza, then the focus is on the sound, because that's all really that's left. And we asked the question, what does this poem say about the transience of time, the passing of time and beauty? And we had to conclude that the poem is just reminding us that all things end. Time has its way, it never stops, and therefore living things anyway, they're born, they live, and then they die. And the beauty goes with it. It's also ironic that it's the end of life for nature in fall, which is the dying of nature, that's also, you could argue, would be the prettiest, would be the most beautiful. So in other words, death is beautiful with the colors of the trees. And the ultimate point we were trying to make is that you have to deal with imagery in poetry, and the best way to do that is to see what it contributes to the meaning of the poem. And another way to do that is to notice the order of the imagery. What's the particular order? Is it, in the stanzas, what are those stanzas orderly for? What's the author trying to do with that imagery? So you can try your hand at the poem A Poison Tree on page 86, answering the basic 10 questions. We're going to do this next week on several of these poems just to get practice. Also, remember the class is reading House of Seven Gables, which is due Wednesday, the first 7 chapters, as well as the term quiz test, which is on Tuesday, the next 20 words. Hope you have a good weekend.